Hello mga ka-bear friends! It's me, your girl, Bear that's Sibucao. And for today's video, I'm gonna present to you and review the largest and most expensive of all iPhones in the 14 series. The 14 Pro Max has the spotlight as the best iPhone you can buy these days. But I'd like to put these claims to the test. Check out my video review to learn all you need to know about this phone's top features and the specifications I like the most. For the first time on the iPhones, there is now a 14 Pro Max lock screen with a dim brightness level and toned down refresh rate to save energy. The rest of the package, including the design, is quite a familiar one except for our model's new purple color. The massive build of flat glass and stainless steel is the same as before. The slight difference you may notice is that the camera bumps are a little bigger and taller to house the new main cam, but the phone's overall weight is still identical down to the gram. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, of course, brings the full IP68 rated protection against dust and water up to a depth of 6 meters. Just like last year's model, the phone is built around a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It has a pixel density of 460 ppi, ceramic shield protection, and 120Hz refresh rate. That fast refresh rate is made its debut last year and it hasn't changed here. It smooths out your swiping and scrolling and can dial down to save energy all the way to 10Hz while the screen is on and now 1Hz for the always-on display. What has changed is the brightness. It's a pretty nice upgrade. We were able to measure a maximum of 830 nits with the manual brightness slider, but this can boost to 1760 nits in auto mode when in bright sun, beating any of the competition by a long shot. The most hyped new feature on this display though is the pill cutout, which Apple calls the dynamic island. At first glance, it's just a black cutout housing the selfie cam and Face ID, but it's also integrated with the UI extending on the left and right sides when you open a compatible app like a music app and displaying relevant info. It can also show system alerts like charging, for example. The dynamic island generally works for one thing at a time, but in some cases, a second app is supported, and when you open that app, it will split the dynamic island into an I shape. Tapping and holding on the dynamic island icons will open them up into a larger balloon window, or in a simple tap will directly open up the respective app. Although the cutout is new, it's not exactly smaller. It sits a little lower so it takes up a bit more screen space, but that's not as big of an issue here as it is on the Pro model, as the screen has extra space to work with. Besides, the content is sharp, vibrant, and contrasty, and the color accuracy is excellent, and there's support for HDR10 and Dolby Vision as well. For the audio, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has a pair of stereo speakers, with the earpiece acting as the top one. They earned a score of very good in our loudness test, and the sound quality is excellent with clean vocals, sparkly treble, and pronounced slow up. Of course, storage isn't expandable on the iPhones, but you have plenty of storage options from 128 gigs all the way up to a whole terabyte. The interface of the new iPhone generation is the new iOS 16. It's not a groundbreaking update, but there are a few new features here and there. One of the more notable changes is the lock screen, which is now also the always-on display. Swiping up will access your notifications. The screen is also customizable with widgets and wallpapers, and you can have a number of custom layouts that you can switch between on the fly. The lock screen layouts can also be linked to your focus modes, so if you're in Do Not Disturb, for example, you could know just by the appearance of your always-on display. The focus modes also have the ability to link to your mail and messaging apps to filter your messages and emails right from the source. Visual lookup isn't quite new, but it has been improved a lot. One thing you can do is isolate an object from a photo or video by tapping and holding on it. Then you can copy and paste it, save it for later, or even drag it straight into an editor or messaging app. And there's an emergency SOS feature which provides several ways to request aid if you're in trouble. In some regions, you can even set an SOS through satellite, handy if you have no network coverage. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 4323 mAh battery, basically the same size as last year. The battery life is very similar too, while the screen on time is a bit better. The new model earned the same great endurance rating of 121 hours. In our test, that's some of the best battery life you can get on an iPhone. The cameras of the iPhone 14 Pro Max are the same as the Pro model. There's a new 48-megapixel main cam with a quad bare filter, and it has a second-gen sensor shift stabilization and full focus pixels. Besides that, there's a 12-megapixel ultra-wide cam which has a new sensor and lens, and like last year, it has autofocus. Then there's the 12-megapixel 3x telephoto and a LiDAR scanner for portraits and focus. The 12-megapixel selfies are great. The autofocus works well and photos are nicely detailed with well-contained noise, wide dynamic range, and accurate colors. Facial features are enhanced a bit too much though, which may come through as unflattering. The iPhone 14 Pro Max can record 4K video in up to 60 FPS with a selfie cam and all three rear cameras, and all modes feature expanded dynamic range to True Smart HDR. The main camera should support 4K videos with a ton of resolved, detailed, and natural rendition without any over-sharpening. The colors are lively, there is no noise, and the dynamic range is great, and so is the contrast. The telephoto camera puts out a respectable performance. The colors and contrast are a solid match for the main camera, and detail is very good as well. The 4K footage from the ultra-wide camera is excellent. It's detailed and noise-free, and the clips have spot-on colors and a wide dynamic range. The electronic stabilization is always on, and it's as good as ever. There is a new mode called Enhanced Stabilization which crops more and is supposed to be smoother, but we didn't see much difference there, and there's another one called Action Mode. It crops heavily from the 4K footage to produce video that's super smooth at the expense of some field of view and resolution. Low-light 4K video from the main camera is great with low noise and plenty of resolved detail rendered in a reasonably natural way. Exposure and dynamic range are good too. The 3x zoomed nighttime photos are usable but far from great as they're often cropped from the main camera. They have likable colors and contrast, but they are soft. Low-light video from the ultra-wide camera is quite solid. Sharpness is good, as is resolved detailed, especially in better lit areas. The color saturation is excellent and the dynamic range is good too. So, there you have it, the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Apple hasn't made a whole lot of changes here, but for me, this is the best iPhone ever. Comes with a wide range of advancements, and even if you don't consider any of them groundbreaking or relevant to your usage, they are there and add up. The brightest screen by far, now with AOD, appeal for quality, a camera system with all-around upgrades and stunning full-resolution shots, and emergency hardwares or software features are all new. These features are in addition to Pro Max trademarks like a long battery life, excellent speakers, and premium and durable build quality. So ultimately, if it's your time to upgrade and the price is fair for you, you can't go wrong on this iPhone 14 Pro Max. Thank you for watching, guys. See you on the next vlog. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos.